Alright, I'm back with another Destiny 2 video, and today is a very big day. Not only did we have a hotfix that really changed the game from top to bottom based on what they did to difficulty, we also have a mid-season preview of the mid-season update that is coming, I don't know, next week? Another week? I guess we'll see. Which should involve a good amount of weapon tuning, I think. I think that was supposed to be the main focus. Hopefully some legendary primary PvE buffs. I guess we will have to see, but as a result, this is probably going to be pretty long. And we will just get started. So I will do this, and then I will go over the hotfix also. So lots to cover. This week at Bungie, we're still recovering from the emotional roller coaster that was last week's story mission and this week's Remembrance centering around Amanda Holliday. While we're still making our best attempt at pretending we aren't solving messes over our favorite mechanic, we did want to share a preview of the mid-season weapons update, so it is weapons, a fun behind-the-scenes look at development animation horrors, and an update on what our player support team is working hard on. Here's what we're going to be digging into this week. A preview of our mid-season update from the team, answering a question about one particular weapon players are searching for. A behind-the-scenes look at placeholder animations regarding that gun. What are we talking about? Is this like a feature on the raid shotgun or something? I assume that doesn't mean the immortal. Update from our player support team on known issues and coming updates. Me's favorite art of the week, movie of the week. And then last week's blog, yeah, we know. Okay. Before we move on to the actual TWAB, we want to pay tribute to the incredible Amanda Holliday. Last week we all said goodbye to a character that proudly walked the Guardian path in every way but her title. Holliday gave her life during Season of Defiance and did so in the most Amanda way possible, like a compassionate badass with a capital B. No matter her trials, her heart never shied away from caring about those around her, even when her mind begged her to be more reserved. We saw it in her friendship with Crow. Friendship, and against all odds, we saw it in small ways. She showed our Vanguard that she was there to support them. So we also saw it each time we spoke to her, even if we just needed a little ship tune-up. On a more personal note, I worked on an aircraft when I was active duty military, so I always looked up to Amanda as a character and felt a special bond with her. I could see myself in her. I wanted to be her. She was a light and had a strength I don't even think she knew about. It has always been inspiring, and her journey will continue to inspire long after her sacrifice. Amanda Holliday gave up her life to help those around her. Those who needed protection needed safety. She sacrificed herself for a cause she believed in, as our job as Guardians to make her proud. Interestingly, we don't really see tributes to dead characters like this. Like, I don't remember seeing this for like Rasputin or anything, so that's interesting. Secondly, okay, she's very dead. I've said this before, but there is nothing to indicate that they are going to bring Amanda Holliday back as a Guardian. I know it is probably physically possible, but I maintain that Bungie is just not going to do this. I don't think they would have an entire segment like this if that was the plan in the future, as much as I would love to see her doing, you know, Titan Thunder Crash slams and stuff. I don't see that happening. Time for a difficulty conversation. Okay, so this is actually part of the hotfix, so maybe I won't have to go through the whole hotfix. We've been keeping an eye on community feedback, of which I am a part, I suppose, with my many articles about this topic, on overall difficulty since Lightfall's launch, and we have some changes in today's update and future updates that retune certain experiences. In today's update, we've reduced Legend and Master enemy HP scalars for non-boss units, which we felt were a little higher than we liked. Reduce the enemy HP scalar in all non-raid, dungeon, legend, and master difficulties by 10%. Okay, so it's not like a huge change. 10% is not like crazy, but it might be enough to, you know, let you headshot something in 2 shots instead of 3 shots, things like that. It was also, so it's only legend and master stuff. So stuff that is not, it's like legendary is different than legend, so this isn't affecting the legendary campaign. They did not change the health of Neo Muna patrol enemies. This is in the hotfix, but they just had less red bars spawning everywhere. Or not red bars, sorry, less orange bars spawning everywhere, which are like absurdly tanky. So it's more red bars than orange bars now. So that is supposed to help with overall difficulty, but they left their health alone. And then also we have reduced the co-op HP enemy scalar in Legendary Avalon by 33% and a full fire team. I thought they said they reduced it for 2 and 3 players, but I could be wrong about that. So 33% less health, or it's the HP scalar. I don't know if that's exactly 33% less health, if that's what that means, but the point is, enemies won't be as super tanky as they were, and this was already supposed to be reduced from the scalar last time around. They were supposedly reduced it at the beginning of the season. And again, it's just Legendary Avalon. It doesn't appear to apply to the Legendary campaign, which also has a scaler. I think they would have mentioned that if they had it, but so yeah, not sure. And we've made some additional reductions to commendation requirements so players can reach their milestone at a more enjoyable pace. My article today was get commendations out of progression period, and we are very much on the path to that. They're not going to be there at all next season. I can almost guarantee you. All right, reduce Hawthorns from 20 to 5. Removed Guardian rank objectives to give commendations from rank 7, 8, and 9. This includes the one I spotlighted yesterday about 50 dungeon raid commendations, which is especially annoying because there's now timed lockouts on those, so you can't just like do a bunch of dungeon bosses in a row. It's now gone. I will now be rank 9 as soon as I fully hit the max power cap. Reduce commendation score requirements from 7 to 9. It's 100, 460, down from 460, 250 down from 790, 500 down from 1290. I'm like 1500, 1600 now, so like this, just running a lot of stuff, you will get commendations, but yes, I maintain that they should not be a part of progression at all. And, you know, maybe they're just reducing them to a point where it won't be, they will pretty much be a non-issue, but the whole commendation system needs a big overhaul. All right, here is the big one. Mid-season weapons preview, mid-season preview weapons edition. Hello everyone, welcome to another mid-season weapons balance pass preview. Season design lead Chris Proctor here. This is not going to be a huge one. Oh, okay. But we feel the changes we do have are impactful to the sandboxes in both PvP and PvE. Also, as a note, in case you missed it in last week's patch, we corrected an issue with target lock that was making it significantly more forgiving to use than intended, which originally would have been included in this patch, but we felt the change warranted being pulled forward. I didn't even know they did that. Okay. Well, that is the target lock Immortal, but I'm sure Immortal probably needs more of its own balancing. PvE primary weapon balance. We wanted to see how the PvE sandbox shook out after the release of Lightfall, not necessarily to see if primary weapons needed a buff, but more to see how much we should buff them. So it was very clear that they needed a buff even going into this. We've done a bit of testing on these numbers and content ranging from heroic nightfalls to legendary campaigns, all the way up to Grandmasters, and we think the changes are impactful without invalidating the difficulty of appropriate levels. Let's see. Okay. In heroic and legendary content, you should be more likely to one-shot red bar enemies depending on your weapon type. Even in GMs, we've shaved how many shots it takes and time to kill for the below weapons against red and orange bar enemies. We want to add, we do not believe we are done tuning weapon damage in PvE. This is merely a starting point, and we will revisit it in coming seasons to make sure everything has a place in the sandbox. Okay. All right. Increase the damage of the following weapon types against red and orange bar enemies in PvE. Auto rifles face steep competition from submachine guns within parts of their range, and having a longer possible engagement distance wasn't doing enough to offset it. We don't want auto rifles to defeat combatants faster than SMGs, as that would flip the script and invalidate the lower range options, but we did feel like we could close the gap substantially. 25%. Just a 25% buff across the board. No archetypes, just 20%. Sorry, 25%. That's significant. I've said like they need like a 30-40% buff, but that's pretty good. That's a good starting point. Now I'm trying to think of all the auto rifles that I can potentially use. The new one everybody loves from the raid, Rufus's Fury, that's going to be everyone's go-to now. I just saved a 4th time target lock Lothbrok, one of the world drops that's new. So I'm curious. I don't know. There's a lot of, we can revisit Chroma Rush. We can see how these feel now. So cool. All right. Pulse rifles and hand cannons have been considered weaker and harder PvE content for some time. So we want to make sure the buff we gave them was substantial while at the same time keeping them below the lower range options in terms of pure lethality. Pulse rifles have struggled being less effective than scouts, despite, for the most part, having a less effective range. We also put sidearms into this group because they similarly lagged in damage output compared to the longer range SMGs. At these values, pulse rifles should be in a more reasonable spot. Hand cannons should feel like they pack more of a punch, and sidearms should fall much better into the high risk, high reward category. So pulse rifles, hand cannons, and sidearms are all getting a 20% PvE buff against red and orange bar enemies. Good. That's significant. I mean, these are real changes. Like, it's not doubling their damage or something, but like, this is something, and I'm glad they're just doing these blanket ones and not like, oh, adaptives are going to get this, and like, just, okay, all of these things are very weak. They need buffs. They are getting buffs. Scout rifles. We need to be careful about scout rifles, tuning scout rifles too much because they offer benefits of very safe engagement ranges paired with unlimited ammo, so making them too strong instantly turns most endgame PvE content into sit as far away as possible and plank, which we want to avoid. Do you? Because that is a lot of endgame PvE content now. Alright, that being said, after the changes to the other weapons, they felt like they were trailing just a little too far behind, so we moved them up as well. So they get a 10% buff. Okay, so SMGs and bows. We tune the rest of the primary weapons using these two as benchmarks, but as mentioned above, we will continue to keep an eye on primary weapons balance in PvE and may revisit their tuning as needed. So those are not getting buffs. You know, SMGs obviously, like they're kind of the only viable mob clearing thing in the game right now. Bows, I don't. There's so many good exotic bows that do like so much damage that it's a little hard to justify legendary bows, if you ask me. Like I'm using Wishender and the Monarch like all the time because of how good they are. But I can understand why they wouldn't necessarily be buffing bows in their current state. Because if you're talking about like high risk, high reward, like there was nothing safer than bows. So I understand why those might not need a buff right now. But this is good. I'm happy with this. I don't know when this is coming. I don't know if there's a date on this, but this seems good. We will see. Then are we doing more? What are we doing? Is this PvP stuff? I think we're going into PvP stuff now. Weapon archetypes. All right, aggressive frame SMGs have been very strong in PvP for the last couple of months, with a handful of outliers taking most of the credit. The Reticles SMG was something of a mystery to us, as we continually felt and got reports that the gun seemed to have much better stability than its stats indicate it should compared to other SMGs. Originally, the Reticles SMG was built back in the Warmind era when you had fewer guidelines on how to keep weapons balanced, and upon doing a deeper investigation, we found some custom tuning had been added to the weapon scope to give it a recoil reduction effect. For comparison, the recoil reduction tuning was like having an effect nearly equivalent to Zen Moment at max strength and always active. Oh my god, video game development is hilarious. Okay, we have removed that custom tuning, and the recoil should now feel in line with other SMGs. Alright, so they removed that, and now it's better. Okay, we are aware this change in isolation, while noticeable, is unlikely to put too much of a dent in aggressive frame SMG's current dominance. We have a larger change to reduce the damage of aggressives that will release alongside Season 21. The change will be targeted at shifting resiliency threshold, where the gun can achieve its optimal 0.67 time to kill, down to a lower value to force a more reasonable 0.77 time to kill, while also decreasing the forgiveness of missed crits. Okay, so I guess that's the Immortal fix. Until then, we might just be dealing with Immortal City for the rest of the season. I don't see it specifically mentioned here, so I guess we'll see. Fusion rifles. When we last said fusion rifles, shotgun had seen a big drop in effectiveness, and we were concerned that rapid fire frame fusions would rise up and take their place. As such, we preemptively nerfed rapid fires pretty hard. In today's sandbox, this is less of a concern due to the renewed strength of shotguns following the AE and pellet spread changes. We have walked back some of the damage nerfs we made to rapid fires. Change will push them back to defeating all resilience levels and 7 bolts and give them a decent bump to ease of use. Increase burst damage by 15. Damage per burst goes from 245 to 260. Damage per bolt from 27.2 to 20.9. Damage in PvE is unchanged. Boo. Trace rifles. Trace rifles are in a bit of a precarious spot in Crucible. In the right hands, they can kill very quickly from long ranges, even outside their optimal TTK. On the other hand, they can be difficult to use and often feel heavily ammo limited if you are not hitting the optimal TTK. We did a lot of experimenting with them for this change, including multiple combinations of damage and crit ratios, and settled on the values below as the highest we could push their damage output before they became frustrating to deal with in the Crucible. Interestingly, with damage any higher than this, the feeling was that they had a surplus of ammo, especially in 6v6, and could often net 2 kills per special brick picked up, which was concerning. Yeah. Once we moved to the damage values, they still felt like they needed a bit more, and we wanted to lean harder into making them feel good to use, so we increased the effect that stability has on reducing flinch at the high end of the stat. We will monitor this change when it goes live, and may revisit the ammo situation in a future update if their effectiveness remains low. Increase base damage by 4%, reduce precision hit multiplier from 1.4 to 1.35. Crit is a tiny bit up from 16.8 to 69. Increase the effectiveness of stability at reducing flinch at 10% at 100 stat. Skills down at lower values. So I think this also applies to PvE too. It doesn't say it doesn't. Sniper rifles. Okay. Oh, is this actually about PvE? Oh, good lord. All right. Rapid fire sniper rifles have long struggled to find a place in both PvP and PvE meta. PvP, their inability to kill with 2 body shots put them on uneven footing with other snipers, and in PvE, their fast RPM but standard inventory size means you constantly feel low on ammo. To address these concerns and differentiate them from other sniper subfamilies, we have reduced their recoil by 50%. Wow, that's actually quite a bit. This means hitting crits on boss or champion in PvE is much easier, and taking rapid follow-up shots in PvE is too. We also have increased their inventory by 30%, which should give them a lot more rounds to play with in PvE content. Alright, I mean, so they're not getting a damage buff, but 50% recoil reduction is certainly something, and is a 30% reserves burst. So, I don't know, I'm going to bust out my Kilos, see how it feels. I forget what I never use snipers, so I don't even know what any of the other rapid fires are. Exotics. Alright, are we not doing heavies? I guess not. Okay. Where's the 50% buff to grenade launcher reserve size? Alright, exotic weapons. Final warning. Being able to track targets through barricades, while funny in some cases, felt pretty unfair to play against and was not the intended mechanic. You can't mark targets through barricades. Okay, yeah, that's probably good. Teraba. Alright. This weapon we'll be keeping an eye on for some while. The spotlight being shown on aggressive frame SMGs, it felt like Teraba had its time in the sun. When the weapon was introduced, there was less survivability in PvP. The intention was that it would take nearly 2 full engagement to get Ravenous Beast active, which made it one of the costliest perk activators we had in the game and justified the extreme power it offered. As the sandbox has progressed, however, survivability has increased, and it has become a possibility for Ravenous Beast to be very close to activating after a single engagement. This has meant savvy players could purposely bait or take a small amount of damage, like standing in a grenades effect, to top off the perk and then have it active for the second engagement. Is there some Ravenous Beast meta I'm unaware of? I guess this is what I get for not really paying attention to PvP that much. I had no idea that there was like some big Ravenous Beast usage. Alright, increased ease of use has made Ravenous Beast an outlier in today's Crucible, and we're left with the options of reducing the potency of the perk itself or trying to make its activation more difficult. We tried to work with the latter. This reduction in energy granted from taking damage puts the onus back on the user to deal damage and shifts the balance of the perk back towards a difficult activator that justifies its reward to a potent effect. In addition, we are continuing our mission to address zoom outliers, and this felt like a good time to reduce the zoom of Teraba back down to something more in line with the rest of the SMG archetype. Okay, reduce the amount of Ravenous Beast energy gain when taking damage from 3% to 1%. Reduce zoom from 16 to 15. Okay, sure. I don't know. I don't know anything about this in the meta, so why not? Revision 0. 4 times the charm. Okay. Well, 4 times the charm working when Revision 0 went into Hunter's Trace is fun and intended, but it caused some unfortunate issues. Activating it too early when the perk was up caused the weapon to overflow its limited mag size and return to the normal pulse rifle mode. We made a fix so 4th time can continue to work while Hunter's Trace is active, but it will not be able to grant ammo until all shots have been expended. That means you can enjoy the 2 free shots provided by the perk as long as you hit all 4 Hunter's Trace rounds without worrying about getting kicked out of the mode. In addition, we have buffed the damage of Hunter's Trace rounds by 25% in PvE. Oh, that's good. We buffed the Hake Heavy Burst round by 75% in PvE. Alright, that's pretty good. That will now make it more of a trade-off when choosing between the Origin perks, either dealing more damage in the primary mode but charging Hunter's Trace more slowly, or dealing less damage but charging the bonus shots more quickly. Okay, that's significant. 75% buffs are always significant. 4th time will now be reset. Okay, that's what we just said. Okay, I am curious to use that now. TWAB Reticles. What is this? Sweeping rework of rep and hipfire reticles to better display useful information. Oh, this is season 21. The aggressive frame SMG nerf, 10% buff to... Oh, okay. 10% PvE buff to sniper rifle damage, buffs adjustment to more than a dozen exotic weapons, including Graviton Lance and Salvation Script. Okay, so that leak was right. I wrote an article about it. You guys can go look it up. But they leaked a bunch of upcoming exotic changes and reworks. And guess what, two were in there? Yeah, so the validity of all those leaks is looking more and more likely by the day. I haven't read all of them, but that one wasn't a story spoiler, so I did dive into it. And it looks like it's going to come to pass. All right, what is this? This is reticles that are giving you more information now. I don't know what that... What are these doing? Oh, it's like charging up the sword swing. That's cool. Okay. Oh, clever. They have the bullets. Oh, and that has the grenades. Okay, this is cool. I like the little changes here. Yeah, and the linear shots from Mythoclast. Good little things here. In the future, you're going to be taking a look at how Zoom interacts with damage falloff with the base damage falloff ranges of all weapons in general. All right. Zoom and perks like rangefinder that manipulate zoom have become a requirement on several weapon types, either to compete at all in the sandbox or to allow the weapon to exceed its intended engagement ranges. This has led us to begin to consolidate zoom values on certain weapon archetypes, which removes an important lever that we can use to modify weapon feel, given the effect zoom has on the field of view, recoil reduction, and aim assist falloff. We'd be investigating decoupling damage falloff from zoom. This would be paired alongside a refresh of base damage falloff values to compensate, which should allow us to better control the engagement ranges of individual archetypes, while at the same time letting us continue to use zoom as a tuning knob for weapon feel without dramatically changing their performance. Okay, well, that's something. Okay. The case of the missing cost hub, a peek behind the developer curtain. Not expecting that, but all right. Cinematics director James Myers has an answer that many of you have been asking. Where the heck is the Kostov weapon seen in cutscenes? Funny story about that. We'll let Myers take this one. Myers. During the production of Lightfall, a certain story beat was pitched related to reluctantly aiming a weapon, and we quickly realized we would need to animate that moment much more specifically than we typically handle Guardians pointing weapons in previous scenes. Many players have noticed some of these sillier results in some real-time scenes, even when we would avoid extreme poses like our Guardian holding a bow at the end of the Witch Queen, so I spun up a thread with the studio leads and suggested we decide on a default weapon that we could feature if we ever needed something specific like this. I suggested the Kostov because it's the very first weapon every player receives in Destiny. Literally every Guardian has tinkered around with this weapon, so it felt like the right call. At the same time, new systems were being developed that would feature Guardians and commendations, and similarly there were a lot of visual bugs popping up with certain weapons like glaives and bows. The animation team was stretched thin, closing its cinematics, and a new set of animations was, unfortunately, something that would cost us other content. Because of that, we made the decision to use the same default logic in the instances where a visual bug would detract from the quality bar we aim to achieve. Regarding helmets seen in in-game cinematics, I've seen some folks post screenshots of their Guardians from recent real-time cinematics, and many were helmetless. Something we started doing in Lightfall is respecting the player's choice of helmet or no helmet in real-time scenes when appropriate, but for the most part, you keep it on its space, for example. For the most part, if you choose hide helmet, you'll see your Guardian's face. And if you don't, you won't unless there's a special exception. I don't want to make that promise too airtight, just in case. There is one caveat in mind. Season 20 cinematics were in production before we finalize this. So from Season 21 onward, we'll be consistent. Who is having helmet off? You're a psychopath. Until you can make us redesign our faces. No way. As a bonus sneak peek, some animators in the film were recently discussing how they push animation poses in ridiculous ways to get the framing just right on camera, making for a solid, better shot of composition and framing. It stirred up some interesting conversations. We figured we'd show you one of these reframings with an example from the Season 20 intro cinematic, whatever it takes to get the shot. So this is Amanda Holiday, and then this is what we see. Crow has to be clipped through the floor so they could get the screenshot. That's good. Wallpapers. This wallpaper is sick as hell. I love that. These are all good. Why is that fish so big? Oh, it's the holograph fish. Okay. Cool. Azurek. I'll use one of these as the thumbnail. So big. These phone wallpapers. Enormous Nezarek on your phone. This would be a cool phone wallpaper. Sorry, Noah. I gotta remove you and put that on. Giant fish. Is this one they did like an internet meme where they're like, we'll make the fish bigger every time you do something? I think that's where that came from. X thing, phone thing. Okay, so that's half the reason this TWAB is so long. Player support reports. All right, loadout crashes. We are aware of an issue when attempting to equip certain loadout can cause game crashes. Sure, your class items are using the updated version of Empowered Finish. Oh, interesting. How about when it doesn't switch my transmog? Because that is what is more annoying to me. Guardian rank updates. Yeah, we've already done that. Known issues. Preservation is not available for some players. Hydroponics. Delta Lost Legendary Sector is a longer respawn timer. Yeah, I remember that from the first time I tried to beat it and kept getting demolished. Veteran players do not receive the correct amount of lore books. That's been there forever. Reservoir bursts, explosion with subsistence could fail to activate. Adept trials hanking in. Yeah, some of these are really old. Grab lift on Hiamuna still tied to frame rate. Non-Lightfall quests showing up under Lightfall. Hunter Gauntlets, Thunderhead Grips are missing some ornament. These have been on here for so long. I guess they've been fixing other higher priority things. Certain heavy weapon archetypes are not benefiting from equipping a third reserve mod. You can't equip Unbroken. Restoration reverts to a lower timer. These are identical, I think, to last time. Weaver weapons can mark targets who target Titan barricades. They just said they're fixing that. Thread of Generation stops functioning on hunters for grenades that aren't grapple after using their super. Unpowered melee can produce fast melee combos in quick succession. Black screen improving armor bundles on PS5, and some Steam players can't get past the class icon loading spinner on launch. That sucks. Commendations are grayed outs as already given some activities. Yeah, I've experienced that one. All right, so we have movie of the week, art of the week. I like that. That's cool. And that's a wrap on our latest TWAB. This one's pretty weapons focused, but with so much talk about recent changes, we wanted to spend some time on what's coming down the pipeline. Now that our past must diverge once more, a friendly reminder, please drink your water, prioritize its self-care, pet all the good puppers out there for me, and always lead with your kindest foot forward. See you on the flip side, friends. Okay, so that is the TWAB. I will go briefly over the hotfix too. We did some of this. Okay, so they fix when you were getting 7-win engram drops, you couldn't focus those. You could only turn them into Verhool, which is deeply annoying. Neomuna. Okay, so this is what they did in Neomuna. There are less orange bar health enemies, and then Cabal turrets in the park respawn too quickly, apparently. Okay. They have not changed the health of the enemies there. There are just less orange bar enemies there, and you are still locked at 15 under. So that is one thing they kept in place. Root of Nightmares, now Nezarec will actually... So Salty Grubbo said it's not actually Wall of Radiance. It's like the AI of Nezarec himself. So, I don't know, whatever. Nezarec will just, like, not bug out and not attack you anymore, apparently. Difficulty, so this is... Okay, so this says scaling for 2 and 3 player fire teams reduced in Avalon, which the TWAB said full fire team, so I'm not really sure which to believe. Then they reduced health in Legend and Master everything, which was only a 10% drop, but that's still something, certainly. Accommodation stuff, we already did that. General reduced the number of additional Scorch stacks by flare-up in PvP to 15 down from 30. Weapons, fixed an issue where target lock was not correctly deactivating on a miss if the weapon is 720 RPM and higher. I think this was an immortal thing. Fixed an issue where some players were unable to acquire Risk Runner Catalyst. Fixed an issue where Quicksilver Storm and Touch of Malice were not receiving the 40% damage bonus against minor enemies. I went and used Quicksilver Storm after this, and man, it feels great. It's I've been using this even when it was bugged, just because I like the weapon so much. Oh boy, even in chonky Neomuna Patrol, it feels really good now. I am so happy this is fixed, and like combined with strand surges and all that other stuff, like feels really good. I think the grenades also have 40% increase damage against red bars. I was 2-shotting like red bar Hydras with grenades in Neomuna Patrol, so I'm pretty sure it works. Feels great. I'm glad they fixed that. Fixed an issue where ghosts and weapon mounts were not correctly unlocked progressing through Guardian ranks. Is this why my upgrade module one's bugged out, or is it something else? Fixed an issue where new players are missing access to patrol destinations. Okay. So I might have to do a whole separate video on like the difficulty changes later, but needless to say, I have been advocating for some toning down. I was mostly focused on Legend as like Master, whatever, like not great, but like Legend is content more people play, and I like it's essentially the second easiest difficulty from normal, Legend, Master, and Grandmaster, so I don't know why it had to be how it was. So I think this is a good change. I think the combination changes are good as well, and I do think they should just be reduced to 0 eventually. Quicksilver Storm feels great. As for the TWAB, really liking what I'm hearing for these primary changes. They're not like super insane, but they feel like in combination with the difficulty nerfs or the health nerfs we just got for most enemies in a lot of content, it feels like we might land in a pretty good spot here. And now I have to strategize about which of these long neglected weapon types I'm actually going to use. Thinking of my kinetic tremors, Nameless Midnight, and Hung Juries that can now live again. And my trusty trust, where I've been farming gambit rolls for it, and now it's doing 20% more damage. So I very much appreciate that. But this is already very long, so I will go and have further thoughts later. But thanks for watching, and I will talk to you soon. Take care.